5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Please do not change channel.
From Krypton Radio, brought to you by Famous Faces and Funnies and Off the Chain with Yvonne Mason, it's the Hangin With Web Show Radio Hour, the Internet's premier pop culture talk radio show. You're tuned in, you're logged on, and now your hosts, GW Pomichter and Christian Basel. Who are you hanging with?
Hello, thank you, Krypton Radio. Welcome to the Hangin With Web Show Radio Hour. We are here, and yeah, that's a good welcome, isn't it, Christian?
Yes, it is.
That's a
Howdy,
fantastic
everybody.
welcome. Hey,
welcome back.
Yeah, welcome back. Week 4. We did it. We did it. Week 4. Yes, we've survived a month on the air, on the radio waves. Everybody, I'm GW Pomichter, and
I'm Christian Basel. Oh, there. Oh, okay.
Guess what? I am Sage Ia.
And I'm Deanna Marie.
That's right, everybody. We've got the whole team online tonight. We wanted to give everybody on Krypton Radio a chance to know us, know a little bit about us and what we like and why we do this crazy thing called the Hangin With Web Show and Hangin With Web Show Radio Hour. So we thought we would kind of go over some of the headlines that have caught our attention. We're going to kind of have a mashup show tonight because in addition to getting to know the four of us, which you know you want to do. You've been waiting for this for 4 weeks, and finally you get to know us a little bit. We're also going to get to know someone else. Our special guest tonight, when he has a chance to get on the air, is going to be Austin Osueke. Austin Osueke from ComX VR. They have created a virtual reality experience around comics and manga and anime. It's really crazy cool.
I'm going to tell you, it's absolutely cool. I had a chance to see that through the virtual reality scope or viewfinder. I'm old. It's a viewfinder. Whatever you want to call it. It's so awesome.
Does it have that little yellow lever that you click down?
Well, sort of, because I had to adjust my vision.
Yeah,
it was kind of like clicking through, but you could read all of the comics, and it was so awesome. It was all right there, right up in your face, virtual reality.
It was really, really cool. Of course, we were only checking it out as parents. We had to test it before we could give it to Cosplay Michael.
Oh yes,
that's all. We were just beta testing the toys.
And
before we
did this test
over.
take up to 8 hours or something like that? 8 to 12 hours?
8 to 9, somewhere.
Okay,
in there.
all right.
It was an experience. There was lots of reading. It's a comic-based, program. So it's really cool, though. You're in an immersed environment. The environment that we happened to be in was in space.
I got stuck in space. I admit it.
She got booted out of the spaceship. Even she was like floating in space.
The constellations were wrong. It was weird, but it was really
Houston, we got a problem out here.
Yeah. That's what it was like.
Stage entered the page out here.
Absolutely. So we're gonna talk to Austin here in a little bit. But man, this is a great time to be a geek. It's a fantastic time to be a geek. It really is.
Geek is chic.
Geek is chic, and it's everywhere. Christian, I know you follow a lot of the geekdom when you're able to. Now, for those of you on Krypton Radio who don't know, Christian works 37 jobs, 147 hours a day.
Just take the blood out. Don't even bother.
Christian is like Cthulhu. He's got 8 arms and a monkey tail.
And they're all doing something.
Chicks stick the tail. That's what it's all about there.
I love it. So, but we've been kind of scouring the calendar for what we're going to be, geeking out on this spring. And we talked about this a little bit the last time we talked to Christian on the phone, and he shocked us all. But the first thing coming up on our list is April 11th is the Season 3 premiere of The Expanse. And we are true sci-fi geeks in that the Sci-Fi channel is home on our TV. If our TV had a home button, that would be it.
I'll tell you what, for people who, like myself, who have never seen this show, bring us into what the Expanse is.
Absolutely.
Just a brief synopsis.
So I was reading the New York Times reviewers stuff, the stuff that they put out from the studio, right? And I realized it wasn't quite succinct enough for me. So I would say you've got all of the political drama of Game of Thrones.
That takes the fun out of it.
with the space opera elements of sort of a Star Trek, and with again modern politics and the UN and all that stuff. So a little bit of Babylon 5, and then it's all centered around this small crew of a tiny little spaceship in the solar system. So for all you Firefly fans out there, this is what we've been waiting for. And it's got a little bit of everything we've ever loved mashed together in 1 hour of joy, right down to, and I know out there on Krypton Radio they know what I'm talking about when I say Battlestar Galactica's reboot, although we all loved the 70s, it was campy, it was fun, it was science fiction in its heyday, its early days. But the reboot added that realism, and they showed you what a spaceship looked like when it tried to turn in space. And it added all of that. Well, these guys over at The Expanse threw all of that in and a bunch of biological science, and, it just crammed. It's a sci-fi fan's wet dream is what it is. It really is. It's just it's
moist.
It's moist.
It is. It's a really moist show.
It truly is. It's based in actual science.
Yeah.
Which is just amazing, and it centers around a misfit crew who accidentally comes together and forms this incredible core. And then you have all of the outside political workings and maneuverings, and they have to fit themselves in there. It's amazing what they've done with this.
It is. And now we're on season 3, which is kicking off. They had a wonderful cliffhanger to season 2. They left our characters in, it really was the second act in a 3-act play. I hope there's more acts. But they left them in these just dangly places where you were like, I hope things get a little better. We had some great, oh my God, wonderful moments, but then at the end you were just like, wow, we're at the precipice of where this show can go.
Well, and I love how they termed their alien. It's a solar entity.
Extrasolar entity, yeah. So there's been no alien contact in this universe until the show kicks off. So it's a first contact kind of thing. We're looking at April 11th. That's coming to Sci-Fi, and I watch very few shows like week to week. I'm a binger. I'm all over Netflix and Hulu and all my apps to try to binge shows. This is a week to week. This is one of those that I will force myself to watch every week, and then I'll binge it again in the end. So I can see it all like a big motion picture, because that's what they've done. They've taken movie making and put it on the small screen with a long storytelling format. It's wonderful. So that's something that we're all, even Dina's excited about that, right, Dina?
Yes, I love the show. It's awesome.
Yeah. So, and Dina doesn't say anything, so the fact that we got her to say that, that's an endorsement. Lots of other things happening, too. Hey, Christian, I know we're excited by seeing our first woman doctor. When are they coming?
They mentioned that it was going to be, I believe right now it's tentative October. We're hoping, but they can always change that later on. But they are filming as we speak. They've been showing pictures of filming throughout the times that they've been filming off and on in production, and it's interesting to watch. YouTube videos and their pics of segments of parts of what you will eventually be seeing on TV. I'm a little nervous. I'm a little excited. I'm a little bit, one of the big criticisms that I have that I'm hearing from your Expanse series that I have now for Doctor Who, my criticism is they're slowly pulling out of that sci-fi world and going a little bit more into the fantasy realm, which I am not too appreciative, and this is where I kind of put Moffat on the stand. Moffat, for those of you who don't watch Doctor Who or may not be familiar with it, Stephen Moffat is the previous showrunner before Chris Chibnall has replaced him, and this is the first year that a female is going to be taking on the role. This is going to be the 13th person in the numeric sense playing the Doctor, minus the John Hurt and all the other people.
This is exciting. It's exciting stuff coming up. It really is, and we just can't. I heard a date not long ago, and then I heard it change, and then I was just like, oh my God, they've given us one of the most anticipated things in the geekdom, and now they're going to make us wait.
It's been a big challenge for Whovians, because you have to respect that this show has been around since 1963, and people who have seen it since its premiere are still around. Yeah, and there was a different world and mindset back in 1963. Flash forward to 2018, attitudes have changed, society has changed, technology has changed, things have changed in the realms of speaking, and this was something that was kind of been at the time kind of a running gag, a joke, or a spoof that maybe someday a female will take over. Well, now it's here. Yeah. And a lot of people who grew up in that mindset and that time frame saying, and I still see it out there, that, oh God, the Doctor has to be a male. It's got to be. But I'm one of those who was, if you asked me back then when I was growing up, when I was first growing up watching it, it was, no, there's no way it's going to be a woman. It's always going to be a man. Then later on, probably 10, 15 years later into the production, when we got closer to like Christopher Eccleston and David Tennant, if they say, well, what do you think about a woman taking over? I said, well, it doesn't seem like a bad concept, but I don't think it's going to happen during my time, or at least it's going to happen a few years later. Now we're here. And I'm just kind of open about the situation. There's been so many debates. I've been on so many panels in other conventions where people come up to me and some people go, I don't want to mention, but I don't like her, and I don't want that there's a female up there. And I'm like, and it's kind of put Whovians on either end of the spectrum right now. And there's this kind of running spectrum in between where people are kind of like, you either hate her, like her, or you're kind of, okay, I'll deal with this. And you got people like me like, I'm okay with this. Let me see what it is. Is this, are we putting this on there because it's a woman in the role, or is this because it's going to work? And she is a great actress. There's no doubt about it. You've seen her in Broadchurch and other stuff, and in other movies. Yeah, well, so she is a great actress.
I think what I'm excited about this transition isn't so much the Doctor, and this is the thing. And everybody out there on Krypton will know what I'm talking about, because we all either are or we have a friend who is. There is such a thing in fiction, whether it be television or movies or literature, as purism. And it's sort of that person that maybe you read Sherlock Holmes when you were a kid, and so when again another Moffat production, when Moffat brought it into the modern times, you instantaneously hated it. You just were like, no, you can't. This is a Victorian character. You can't do that. If you're a Star Trek fan, then we went through this with when J.J. Abrams took the reboot. And, everybody was just up in arms. Captain Kirk is Bill Shatner. There's no way. Chris Pine delivered a fantastic performance, but it didn't matter because there's a certain purism to the community in some corners. And I'll be the first. I used to be a purist when it came to literature, when it came to old television. Again, you and I were talking about this about Battlestar Galactica back in the day. If you are a fan of the old show, there was something in you that kind of fought the idea of rebooting the show. even after you saw the mini-series and things, you were like, oh, I don't know. I kind of miss this or I miss that. Because it's tied to your childhood. It's tied to what you grew up with. It's
exactly.
Yeah, and so because of that, we all have this little bit of a purist in us. As I began to write as a career for myself, as I began to look at other writing, is when I opened up to the fact that, storytelling is just that. There's never been a pure story. We've been telling stories since we were sitting around campfires outside of caves, and every storyteller, even if the story is the same, every storyteller adds a little twist or a little change. And again, in modern times, the biggest changes are things like race or ethnicity or gender. But the Doctor, I grew up in the 70s. We saw Doctor Who on TV. It was a little older for us. But then in the 80s, we, kind of looked back at that and thought, oh, that was really cool. And then when, they started this more recent run of Doctors, I remember looking in the first couple episodes, I kind of cringed at the idea of I remembered my Doctor growing up. And then those from the 60s had like 5 doctors before that. But the character has always been there's always been a tension there, but he's always been sort of genderless. He's all about the ride. He's all about the adventure. Even the companions are not so much romantic interests. They're more true.
And they were never supposed to be back when we started. And I think there's the difference between purist and honoring what came before.
Yes.
And my biggest gripe is, and I've said this in other medias, one of the things that I'm more concerned about is I don't want them spending a half hour talking about her femininities. I don't want them talking about her etheric beam locators or how the sonic screwdriver has 3 settings. I don't want any of that in the first, and I don't think there's any way they might get around it, but I don't want that to be the predominant first story. I want her to pick up the mantle and run with Doctor. It as though, and be the Doctor as if it were he picking up the mantle and going on.
Yeah, because I think there is something about the Doctor's always, when you look at the Doctor, of course he's always been played by a man. He's always been a bit masculine. We've had Doctors that were more effeminate. We've had Doctors that were more, guys. But he's really been genderless. It's not a thing. So it's great when now we can see a female Doctor. They've never nailed this issue down. They've never said, and there have been Time Lords and Time Ladies, and we've never seen the crossing over of the genders until we got to the Missy Master version of it. And there have been subtle mentions in previous episodes about the 11th Doctor talking about, I forgot the character's name, but it was in the I'm trying to remember the episode, but he was mentioning as a Time Lord as a he, and he mentioned later on as a she. It's the episode with I can't even think of it. I'm a bad Whovian I am, but I'm sure it's a Matt Smith episode. I'm sure everybody knows. But regardless, it was being hinted throughout until we got to the Missing Master, and I think that's where they were testing the waters. Okay, can we switch the genders just to play it up? And I think being that the show that it is for Doctor Who, because this is a very unique show, this show continually runs and keeps the same storyline. There's no reboot. There's no spin-off. I mean, it's had spin-offs, but it's always stayed with the same lineage. And when Russell T. Davies had picked up Doctor Who, he had the chance to, okay, I'm going to reboot this, or I'm going to take what came before and run with it. And I'm glad he chose the latter. To run with it. This show is very unique, as the story just keeps going on and on and on and on and on and on and on. It's not a spin-off. It's not a reboot. It's itself. And I'm hoping when I'm gone, for it to not run another 50 years, I think Whovians are going to have to go into the territory that they don't want to deal with. Yes, and it is.
Because it's this dangerous territory because they're so accustomed and comfortable from what they've had in the past that to make those kind of tweaks on it. Did I say twerk? Great. Any kind of tweaks on there.
See, you said twerk, and now Dina's twerking.
I know.
See what you did? See what you did in the studio.
You know.
I agree. I think we all have to fight that purist in us that even though it's not our stuff, the longer you have a show or a series or a comic line or whatever, fans start to feel, when I was in college learning writing, it's called pride of authorship. When you write something and then you have a hard time when your editor wants to change something or whatever. Well, fans in pop culture have that same pride of authorship. It's a part of our youth. It's a part of our growing up. And the longer something is there, the harder it is to watch it change. And we all have to fight that because so many of the changes that come along over time are positive changes, and they help enrich the stories. From the first time we told each other about, things in the dark beyond the firelight with fangs, to the last vampire film, there have been a million changes to that thing in the dark.
Oh, they can sparkle at daylight. So
some changes are better and not better than others. Yeah. But those changes happen, and some of them so enrich the story and the tale that it's worth going along for the ride. And so we're excited when that comes up. We've been seeing, of course, it seems that our little mouse here in Florida owns more and more of our pop culture universe. And Marvel, one of the many mouse houses that is out there now, owns everything, man. They're everywhere. Hulu, Netflix, network television, obviously the movies. So we've been watching that development. We just saw, I think, today, 2 new Marvel properties that are coming down the pike. And one of them was actually really exciting, and it's coming. It's not coming until June, but it's coming to ABC's FreeForm network. It's sort of their second network. Now all these channels in HD have like 4 channels that go with them, like there's sub-channels.
Yeah.
Well, ABC's sub-channel is called FreeForm. There's an app for that for all of you Roku and Apple TV and streamers. And on June 7th, they're dropping Cloak and Dagger from the comic of the same name. And this is Marvel Light, man. This is like teen Marvel, which is interesting because all of us that grew up with comic culture are getting older now. So what about that next generation? Are they only going to know what they see in the movies? And I guess the answer to that from Disney is nope. We're going to introduce them when they're young. So Cloak and Dagger is kind of, the teen Marvel. It's sort of what, remember Fox had The Gifted, which was an X-Man young person's X-Man. Well, Cloak and Dagger is, 2 teen would-be superheroes and their origin stories. And it's coming in June, and it looks really good. And I'd say that saying that, we watch a lot of stuff here that is, I guess you'd say age appropriate, but we also, looking through pop culture for, where things are coming from. We watch a lot of those young people things. We watched the Shadow Hunters on ABC. We watched a lot of those things. And they were great. They really were, for what they were. I mean, it's right. Marvel does 90210. but but we're bringing young people into the universe, which is really great. As we mentioned earlier in the hour, we talked briefly about ComX VR, and we are joined now by Austin. Tell me if I pronounce this right. It's just this is a wonderful, confusing speller. This is made to confuse journalists. Austin Osueke? Osueke.
Yes, sir.
Oh, my
yes,
Lord. All right. So what I have is a young, passionate creator, a young African-American creator with a Swedish name. Just saying. Actually, it happens.
It's Nigerian.
Nigerian. Oh, fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
but people
awesome.
think it's Japanese.
It is. That's where I got the pronunciation from. My son taught in Japan for several years, so I'm used to pronouncing things differently. And Austin is with EigoManga, who just introduced a new app called ComX VR. So ComX VR. We tried this out. It's awesome. By the way,
thanks a lot.
You did a great job. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Austin, thanks for hanging with us tonight.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be on this program. GDC. This is GDC week, but I wanted to be here. GDC's Game Developer Conference, and it's all about VR, but this is more important to me than GDC.
Well,
so
thanks
for inviting me.
Oh, you're very welcome. We're glad that you could come on. We really are. Christian, you haven't tried this yet.
No, I have not.
No.
Inspire me about this. Tell the audience a little bit about this.
Yeah, Austin, make Christian want this.
Well, basically, ComX.
Is it the VR concept, or are you having me date him? I don't know what it is.
Yeah. So ComX VR is what it says. It's reading comics in virtual reality, and we felt that VR is a very interesting new frontier for digital entertainment, but there aren't any leaders or industry players in for comics. We thought it would be a great idea to develop it, because digital comics is a definitely under $1 billion. It's been acquired by Amazon for $500 million, and industry leaders like Comixology and Marvel, DC, they all have comic readers, but the whole industry for digital comics is huge, but like I said earlier, there aren't any players for virtual reality. So I felt it was a really great opportunity to be involved with it. When it comes to VR, I felt to use a mobile VR because the current existing VR right now, like Oculus and HTC, you need a very high-powered gaming computer to use these VRs, and it's just expensive, and it hasn't really caught on. It hasn't caught on. Like, as you can see, what the sales numbers now for Oculus and premium VRs are called. But everybody has an iPhone. Everybody has let's say post 2008 Android. So they all have the ability to run mobile VR because they have a technology called a gyroscope in them, which it allows you to track basically gyroscope. Yeah. So every phone has that. So Google VR, they've developed a platform called Google Cardboard to allow developers to make VR apps within with this technology. So that's what we've leveraged is Google VR, Google Cardboard for our system.
And now you started with a lot of manga anime style comics. We saw, but I have a question. I wanted to know your virtual reality skin, as it were. You chose sort of a spaceship feel. Was there a reason you chose that? Are you working on other environments as well? Are you guys working on other skins, or was that something you chose? Where'd that come from?
Well, I felt that outer space is a very generic background for our comics, so we thought we would get a lot of sci-fi or techno type themes and such. And I didn't want to use I didn't want to use like a background like a bedroom or some type of just some type of generic. One idea that we had was like a dojo, but I didn't want to do that. I felt since we are working with a high tech trendy thing, and I felt at the moment that a space station or some type of space element would be a very good, I guess. It's just the most generic we can. I can catch all types of comics that we have.
Yeah.
But I do in the future wanted to use that as an opportunity to promote DLCs. Like, let's say if we work with DC, we had Batman titles. We definitely develop like a Batcave type background environment or something.
Okay. So eventually, I'll be able to sit in the Batcave and read Batman stories.
Yeah, it's the way we built it. The way we built the 3D element, the 3D background is very. We could definitely swap out the background with the Batcave or the Xavier Mansion or anything. We wanted to. That's in the future. We definitely want to.
No, you didn't.
Introduce other environments where people can, at their choice, be somewhere else while they're reading a comic.
That's fantastic. It's amazing.
Wow.
It was. We had to test it for our little cosplay Michael, and so Sage and I tested this program.
Yeah, thanks. That's what we did. That's EigoManga. We're a publishing company, and we did. We still do distribute a line of publications called Rumble Pack. It's a core pack to schools and libraries. We definitely try to make it appropriate for those ages. We don't want to have any four-letter words or anything that's inappropriate for school. So, yeah, we're happy about that.
Yeah. It was. We had a great time. It was great. Like I said, we got to push Sage out through that bottom door, and she just floated in space for a little while.
Well, okay, got to figure out how did you do that, because we're trying to avoid getting people outside of that environment. So,
I don't know how she did it.
Thank you.
I really don't. All I know is I said to her, "Where are you now?" And she said, "I looked down, and now I'm looking around, and the constellations aren't right." So if you got somebody that's a physicist there, you might want to work on those constellations for Sage.
Yeah, I think it's a camera issue that we. Well, I'm glad you picked it up. This is our first version that we put on just a few days ago, so we'll always definitely update it and such. Thank you for bringing it out.
Oh no, it was great.
Where do you get all of your comic creators from? I saw that you had Monkey Tail, and there were several other comics that I read. How do you choose who gets put into that virtual comic world?
Well, we had these in our library for about 18 years. We publish comics that people submit to us or that we developed ourselves, like through freelance work. So titles like Monkey Tail has been one of our first titles back in, I think, as far as 2004. And it's also been within our publishing company, one of our popular titles. And so we're reintroducing that title within VR to a new generation of people who haven't heard of it. Hopefully they will like it. But yeah, these are titles that are within our library, and we hope to definitely work with other publishers and studios in the future to get their work in our system.
Oh, that's fantastic. It just so happened, and thank you for coming on the show and for hanging with us. But, it just so happens that Christian and Sage and Deanna and I spend an awful lot of time around comic creators in our travels. So we will definitely be sending some your way. And, again, we love the app, man, and hopefully Christian will try it out. Christian, sit down when you try it out. It's a beautiful, immersive environment. You'll fall right over if you don't. So
okay. I'll pull a Sage.
Yeah, you'll pull a Sage. Your coworkers.
Constellation's a little off to the left.
Yeah, your coworkers will come into the room and they'll wonder, why does Christian look like he's floating on the moon? It's weird. We've been on the line here hanging with Austin Osueke from EigoManga, the company who introduced ComX VR. And you can get that in the Apple Store. You can get it in the Google Play Store for Android and Google devices. Now, will it work? It works with the phone's VR apps, correct? So it'll work with any one of the commercial turn your phone into a VR headset, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Basically, if for an iPhone, if you have anything beyond I'd say iPhone 5, anything like within the last 8 years, it'll work. And
awesome.
For Google,
awesome.
We're trying to make it as accessible to as many people as possible.
Wow, that is fantastic. We really enjoyed it. We thank you for coming and hanging with us tonight. We really do, Austin. And we're going to make sure that we get all of your links and let everybody know where you can find this. Right now you can find this at EigoManga.com on the web. You can read all about this stuff. Over at Facebook, you can find them at EigoManga. And, you know, we've already been over there and checked you guys out, and just great job, guys. Really, really
Thank you
great
very
job.
much.
Thanks for hanging with us tonight, man.
Thank you.
All right. Well, we're going to go ahead and we're going to let Austin get back to his conference, and we're going to take a minute to say thanks to our friends and our partners and let you guys hear from them a little bit. The people who sponsor our show, who partner with us, help to share these radio episodes. They help to share our daily video content all over the World Wide Web, and we couldn't be more grateful for them. So remember to stay tuned in. Remember to stay logged on. We'll be right back right after we hear from our friends and partners.
Famous Faces and Funnies in Melbourne, Florida
Thank you very much.
the way in pop culture fun. From comic books and graphic novels to Funko Pops and collector's items, Famous Faces and Funnies has it all. Rick Shea and the professional team at Famous Faces and Funnies are friendly and knowledgeable. Whether you're looking for toys, props, collector treasures, or a new comic book, Famous Faces and Funnies is your one-stop shop. To find Famous Faces and Funnies on Facebook and Twitter, just type at FFF Comics.
Greetings, true believers. This is absolutely, positively not Stan Lee, reminding you that you are listening to Krypton Radio. Krypton? That's the other guys. It's Sci-Fi for your Wi-Fi. Excelsior!
The Hanging With Web Show Radio Hour on Krypton Radio, bringing you the very best in pop culture talk radio. Each Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, the Hanging With Web Show Radio Hour with your hosts G.W. Pomichter and Christian Basel, who are hanging with rising pop culture newcomers as well as superstar icons. The Hanging With Web Show Radio Hour. Tune in Thursday, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Who are you hanging with?
All right, and we're back. This is the Hangin' With Web Show Radio Hour. I'm G.W. Pomichter.
I'm Christian Basel.
Oh, I am Sage Ia.
And I am Deanna Marie.
And we just got done hanging out with Austin Osueke from EigoManga and talking about ComX VR, super sweet VR, mobile VR software. So it's available for iOS and for Android and Google phones. So
cool.
Check that's a pretty cool idea, isn't it?
No, that's an awesome idea. I mean, now that I've heard more about it, I'm going to check that out. I think I just want to see Sage just walk aimlessly in space, just to see. I just put her in the middle of the street or something like that, just to see.
Thanks for that. I appreciate it.
It was a lot of fun. We first tried VR, like he said, the higher end stuff. The kids had it, and we tried it out, and it was pretty cool. But little Michael likes to do it, and we thought, gee, for his phone, we'll get him something, and we did, and he loves it. And when we read the press release on these guys, it was just wow, really cool idea, because it is you're on or looking at close-ups of the comic pages. So you have the word bubbles, you're still reading the descriptions, you're looking at the original comic art, but you're doing it in this immersive environment. And so it's a great way for younger kids to get interested in reading, if nothing else. So it was really, really cool. So, wow. Like we said at the top of the hour, we are just giving everybody on Krypton Radio a chance to know who we are and what we geek out about. We've talked The Expanse. We've talked Doctor Who. We introduced y'all to Cloak and Dagger coming in June on ABC's Freeform. But there's a lot more going on. Everybody in the universe knows that Marvel is bringing Avengers Infinity War April 27th. I think there's like a countdown ball like on New Year's for this.
I don't doubt it. It's somewhere in Times Square.
Probably. Really, I mean, it is. Especially now, Black Panther's been out and been the reigning box office champ 5 weeks running. $1.2 billion as of yesterday. I didn't see today's numbers. And it just broke another 2 records. One is it is the best reviewed single superhero film on Rotten Tomatoes. It just surpassed The Dark Knight and Iron Man. And then the other record that it just was this is going to sound funny. In the social media world we live in, it just broke a Twitter record for the hashtag Wakanda Forever. So, this is Marvel has been an amazing part of geek culture for 60 years. In the past decade with the film franchise, though, I think Marvel is responsible largely for how mainstream pop culture, geek culture has become. And so I can't expect anything different from Infinity War. It's going to just knock over all the records and, it's like a wound-up bull in a china closet. It's going to break everything.
So let's see what happens.
Yeah.
I'm not having any negative thoughts about it. I'm just like saying, hey, let's see what happens.
So much in storytelling is centered around the connections we make with characters and environments and those kinds of things. And ensemble pieces are always hard. They just are. The nature of telling a story and investing an audience or readers or anyone in a multitude of characters is a really hard thing to do. Obviously, Marvel knows the formula. They did it for Avengers, and they did it for Age of Ultron, and for Captain America Civil War. But this is, I think someone said there are more than like 40 superheroes coming together in this movie.
Wow. And not only that, but I think in the movie theaters, if you have not seen any of this, I think, if I'm not mistaken, there are certain movie theaters that are going to play I think it's now, 13 Marvel movies, and then you will actually be able to sit at the theater hours beforehand watching all 13 movies, and then the next movie will be the Avengers, the Infinity War. So it'll actually go like a chain. Yeah. So I wish I had the article or anything like that, but I read on that and I'm like, damn. First of all, no life.
Well, we all wish we had a little less life so we could do that. It's a long time. I mean, you're talking about 10 years worth of films and filmmaking and character building. But again, in telling the Infinity War story, you have to get them, keep them, hook them with 40-plus, quote, main characters. It's a hard sell. One that I personally can't wait to see, but it is, I can see where, you have to kind of go, okay, what are my expectations, and are they too high? Can you tell a story with that many key characters without them stepping on each other? The Avengers we really got Cap, Iron Man, Hulk, and Thor, and then, of course, we got to see how important Black Widow and Hawkeye were, but as tertiary characters. We keep building and building and building, and now we're just going to unleash the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe in one film.
Well, here's the other thing, is where do you go from here? And I know that they're having another Black Panther movie. There is talks now that there will be possibly a Black Widow movie. They're talking about one of the stars from Black Panther having their own trilogy
Yeah,
possibly,
that's what I read.
and believe Spider-Man has another movie out, so it's still going on.
Yeah.
But where do you go from here when the roller coaster has hit the climax and it starts to go downhill and go up? Where does it go from there?
Well, the scary thing is, and we all know this is true because Kevin Feige has told us it's true, there's going to be a lot of death. I mean, literally, we're looking at a rebirth type of scenario where there'll be more main Avengers and less old faithful characters.
So they're doing what they're doing in Star Wars. They're basically fading out the old generation and bringing in the new generation.
Well, because it's Marvel, it's top secret. So if we actually knew that, they'd send people with Mickey Mouse masks to kill us. But yeah. We don't know, but that seems to be the feel that we're getting is some of our old faithful standbys, some of our most beloved heroes are not long for this world. And of course we know in the comics, different heroes have been assumed by different characters. So whether it's Cap or Iron Man or these personas have been adopted by multiple aliases, as it were. So there's a lot of room in there for them to work. There's nothing that says that Steve Rogers has to live through Infinity Wars, except for my personal ulcer. But aside from, other
for
than
your health reasons, we got to keep Steve.
You got to keep Steve because he's Cap. He's my boy. But they don't have to. I mean, they can do anything they want to. And of course, we know Captain Marvel's coming. We know Ant-Man is expanding their universe with Ant-Man and the Wasp. So we don't know. I mean, it's just going to be it's a free-for-all of superhero movies. Like I said, it's never been a better time to be a part of this amazing fandom that we're a part of.
And here's one other thing we've forgotten, and it's in the Marvel Deadpool 2.
Yes.
And they're supposed to be bringing in rumors of the X-Force coming into there. So
they
telling what's going to go on in that area.
Well, now that the deal is all the details are being worked out on the Marvel Fox deal, we don't know what we're going to get. So much content was farmed out in those early days that there's a glut coming back. And I heard titles when the deal was in the newspapers. I heard titles that I hadn't heard in 30 years that are finally rejoining the Marvel, either the MCU or some of the television properties that they put out, or Netflix or Hulu, or they're just rejoining the Marvel family, and it's really cool. I did just see Legion is coming back April 3rd. I just saw an ad today. Craziest, wackiest, wackadoo X-Men spinoff I've ever seen. I loved it. It was episode after episode of making my brain. It was like being on LSD, and I've never done LSD. So
okay,
it was. I mean, I was having
speaking of experience of no experience.
Yeah, exactly. I was having acid flashbacks, and I've never had acid. It was that kind of story. So I'm intrigued by season 2 coming. I am familiar with the Legion story from the comics. And so it's interesting for me to watch as they bring it to screen in, I'm going to say, a very untraditional way. This is a far more cerebral story than we get on television as a rule. It's in your head. It's every step is a kind of a trippy thing, and it does deal. The comic storyline does deal with issues like we used to call it multiple personality disorder. It's called something different now. but it does deal with those complex issues and the idea of his power, and if you can have that much power and stay sane. And so it's always had those complexities, even in comic form, but the cinematic choices that they made filming this were, I'll say, they were unique. And probably the first 2 episodes that I saw, I couldn't figure out if I liked it or not because it was too weird. You remember years ago seeing Jacob's Ladder in the movie theaters? The movie,
the Tim Robbins movie.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
You remember like that?
That's a bad acid trip.
Yeah. Like the first time you see it, the first time you saw Jacob's Ladder, you left the theater, and I mean, I was in my teens, so I couldn't wrap my mind around it. I couldn't get it. It was years, a couple years later when it was coming out on premium television, HBO and that kind of stuff. And I'd watch it as an adult and go, oh, wow, I got that. Wow, that is so cool. But that first time, my brain just couldn't absorb it all. So that's where I was with Legion. They won me over. I'm a big fan. It's just your mind is blown, and it's an expansion of the X-Men universe in a cerebral direction. It's not like those early X-Men movies that was all action to win you over. This is, you're going to dive right into this guy's head, literally, and see what you're going to do. So that's coming. October 3rd, Legion is back on the air. We don't follow this that much. We watch we sort of watch bits and pieces of Walking Dead, but they're doing something really cool. The season 8 finale and the upcoming premiere of the next season of Fear the Walking Dead are doing a crossover. Yeah.
Which they've been hinting for some time now, but now they're actually starting to put everything into play. And I think at this point, what I thought, how much further do you can go? How much more of this war can you run? And then what happens after? Because people have been hinting that maybe series 8 or 9 would have been the last season for Walking Dead, because there's, after Negan, now what?
Yeah.
So, or maybe that crossover is going to hopefully give us more to deal with, or give another
perspective,
take it in another direction.
Yeah. I think that, you're right. They did make a... from Negan, actually somebody was tracking this. I think it was a TV Guide article or Entertainment Weekly article I just read. Said they were tracking it, and from the big Negan season premiere, boom, everybody's dead, and they've been tracking slowly downward in their viewer numbers. They haven't got anywhere near where normal TV shows get yet, okay? They're still killing everybody, but they have tracked downward. And when Sage read this news, I remember her saying that part of the article actually said that there are many ratings concerns that are driving this crossover to see if we can't, share some viewers, that kind of thing. Yeah, we've got that. Those are some of the things that we're into, guys, on Krypton Radio. We are tracking Krypton, which is coming March 21st. We just checked out a teaser for a new show coming to FreeForm called Sirens. It's creepy mermaid, very creepy mermaid. I mean, like fangs and crap. It's
we like that stuff.
Yeah, man, that's awesome. So we just saw that. So we've been doing like the dive in and see what's there, and we're gonna check that out. I think that's coming. I think next month. I think I read. So we're gonna check that out when it's there. I mean, these are the things that we track. So Deanna and Sage haven't said much this hour, but they're my watching buddies. They watch everything with me and seem to enjoy it. And so this is a great spring to be a part of this fantastic creative comic geekdom that we're all a part of. Christian, you're looking forward to Doctor Who, I know.
Yeah, definitely.
Another thing we're tracking April 25th, the new season of Handmaid's Tale, which broke Hulu last year. It was that well received. It was fantastic. It is a dystopian near future alternative timeline, and it is dark and menacing and wonderful. We've got about 2 minutes, so in that amount of time, we're just going to go around the room here and let everybody say goodbye and wrap things up. And Christian, any final thoughts? Want to welcome them back for next week? What do we want to say?
Well, keep an eye out on Krypton Radio because there is a new show coming on. They're finalizing negotiations, but keep an eye up on the Facebook site or my personal site or my Twitter site, and I will be giving you. I will be cross-pollinating with a new show that will be new to Krypton Radio. It's been around for quite some time, but I'm not going to say anything yet because I want to make sure everything's finalized. But you may hear me on another show, being a guest co-host, to talk more in detail about a show that I like. So we'll just leave it at that for right now.
Awesome. Sage?
Let's keep it.
Yeah, Sage, any final thoughts for tonight?
I do. I want to tell everybody to create, aspire, inspire, and please keep hanging with us.
Absolutely.
We love our creators. We love what we get to do because of all of their amazing creators. That was a great cheesy plug for the show, and we are grateful for it. Thank you so much. Deanna, you want to say goodbye to everybody tonight?
Bye, everybody.
Oh, Lord. That's what we got.
And
Can we we need to get a rim shot for that. There we go. All right. Nice. Thank you.
And just to wrap up, you guys are going to CalusaCon this weekend, right?
It is Collective Con in Jacksonville. Collective Con, yeah. And then from Collective Con, we've got Infinity Con, and then MegaCon. Yes, but we haven't been
together for that.
We haven't been invited to Shaka Con yet.
Good. No.
Everybody on Krypton Radio, y'all know that's a Con Man reference, right? Yeah. Guys, we got to wrap it up here. We thank our great partners and friends at Famous Faces and Funnies, terrific folks over at Off the Chain Radio with Yvonne Mason, of course, Space Coast Comics, our friends here at Krypton Radio for helping make this show happen, and again, Famous Faces and Funnies, and Something Unique Magazine. These guys been supporting the show from the very beginning. You can find our daily video webisodes on hanginwithshow.com. You can find us on Facebook at Hangin With Web Show. You can find us on Twitter at Hangin With Show, and on Instagram at Hangin With Web Show. But you can always, if you don't want to write all that down, you can always come here to Krypton Radio, to the Hangin With Web Show, and just click your way there. It's that simple. Right, Christian?
Absolutely. If they want to do anything complicated. Just
that's right.
Google Hanging With without the G at the end, and you'll find us somewhere. You'll get us somewhere.
Okay. As we wrap it up, though, we want to remind you to remember, always log on, tune in, and see who we're hanging with next.